Now, as the Tory MP for Bury South, Christian Wakeford, defected to Labour today, Boris Johnson is reportedly struggling to quell a so-called pork pie plot, with dozens of Red Wall MPs threatening a coup. So a group of around 20 newbie Tories met for crisis talks about the PM in the office belonging to Alicia Kearns, the MP for Rutland and Melton, home to the pork pie. And it's not going down well with Cabinet, according to political editor at the Times, Stephen Swinford, who quotes an insider saying, "It's pretty sickening. They were only elected because of him. Most of them are a load of nobodies. It's nuts." The tensions was very palpable today in a fiery PMQs, with MPs braying for the Prime Minister's resignation. And as the heat cranked up, Deputy Leader of No Opposition Angela Rayner was even emboldened to showboat.
They are history and will remain history, Mr. Speaker. It will show, it will show, it will show.
She needs to grow up, doesn't she? She needs to grow up. But I guess we should just be thankful that she chose cheap slapstick laughs over another foul-mouthed tirade today. Well, as the drama continues to unfold, there are now conflicting reports about the success of the pork pie plot, with Daily Telegraph Associate Editor Christopher Hope saying letters currently stand at nearly 40 and within touching distance of the 54 needed to trigger that vote of no confidence in Johnson. But others are reporting that some Tories are withdrawing their letters. So, Adam Brooks, should these MPs show more loyalty to Boris Johnson, who, in the case of the Red Wall MPs, are arguably the only reason that they're actually in office in the first place?
You could say that. They definitely rode the Boris brand, didn't they? They also rode the Brexit wave.
Yeah.
So, yes, they've got to understand that they are there because of Boris and Brexit. So, yeah, I think they're trying to manipulate themselves into a better position, and I think it's backfiring, to be fair.
I mean, Daisy, it's pretty bad, isn't it, that they have shown no loyalty to Boris Johnson, right?
I think I can completely see why people would think that. And as I was saying earlier, Dan, actually defecting to another party is a really, really big deal in the House of Commons. Having said that, yes, they only got where they are because of Boris's popularity, but Boris's popularity was sort of built on hot air and fluff, and that's been blown away in some ways. And now, the things that people never used to mind about him, because they thought he'd be quite fun to go to the pub with, that he didn't seem very trustworthy, that he didn't seem to have a good relationship with the truth, that he perhaps wasn't reliable and sound and solid. A lot of those things were things that people either didn't mind or actually quite liked about him. Now that he has, as many people would see it, let us down, I don't think that they owe Boris very much at all in some ways. And as we were saying, if you look at the polls in those seats, there's a poll out tonight, because as things stand, only 3 of those Red Wall constituencies would remain Conservative if there was an election tomorrow.
Polls. If we believed the polls, we would have had Hillary Clinton in the White House and we would still be a member of the EU right now.
Absolutely, and sorry, but if you think, does Boris Johnson owe something to them, or do they owe something to Boris Johnson?
Well, look, Emily, it's interesting because I want to mention this report by Tony Diver, who's one of the main political correspondents at the Daily Telegraph, who says 5 more Tory MPs are considering defecting to Labour after the success of what is now being described as Operation Domino. These people need to think about their voters. Stop thinking about their own careers and think about their voters.
Well, the charge levelled at Boris Johnson is that he is only out for himself, that his, policies are only skin deep, that he has no vision, and so on. But some of these potential defectors are showing themselves to be just the same, if it's true that there are 5 potential defectors, which I find hard to believe. But I do think that to put a positive spin on things, perhaps, is that Boris Johnson clearly, and his team have clearly acknowledged that people want him to bring back those policies that won him the last election, and with this Operation Red Meat and so on. And also, one needs to remember that at this period in the election cycle, most of the time the governing party aren't doing too well. No. Right, in the polls.
Yes, exactly.
He was riding high for a long time, way longer than previous prime ministers. And yes, this is a massive blip, and yes, a lot of people will have lost trust in it. But I actually do think that if he brings back those Conservative policies, he will win back support because there is no one else.
Who do they think? Who do they really think is going to win the next?
Yeah, and is going to do a better job. Well, indeed.
You know?
And Daisy, look, these midterm slumps are very usual. And actually, if you speak to some political insiders, they'll say, if you have a government that doesn't have a midterm slump, it means they're actually not doing the hard yards. They're not doing any work. Blair had the midterm slump. Cameron did.
And that's why, very often a protest vote, like a Liberal Democrat vote or a Green vote, normally does very well. The difference with this midterm slump is it's not just a midterm slump with the Conservative Party. It is Boris Johnson. And, of course, as you quite rightly said, Boris Johnson was a very big part of why these seats were won. He is also going to be a very big part of why...
Of if they're lost.
Yeah, of if
but that is an if
which
at
is
this
which is
point.
the danger if you put all your eggs in one basket on one politician and that politician, the facade comes down or people change their mind about him.
Or you back him. Or you
I would
back
say
him.
that the disillusionment, of course, is not just with the sleaze and the scandals. There are a lot of Tory members and general public Tory voters who have been disillusioned with the net zero agenda, the rising cost of living, what they've
and how he's dealt with the
wokery of
pandemic.
the government.
Exactly.
Look, I said last week, I've loved Boris. I've loathed Boris in the last 18 months.
Yeah.
And today, the speech and the lifting of Plan B and all the other things, and even mentioning that they're going to maybe have a vote on the Coronavirus Act before March.
Did it give you hope?
It's given me hope, and it's made me think, hold on, let's stick with him.
But also, Dan, there is something, sorry to be a bit of a parliamentary nerd, but MPs are not delegates. They're represented and they're meant to represent all of their constituents, not just the ones who voted for them. And the reason that most MPs don't automatically trigger a by-election if they cross the floor is because of that.
I know, but come on, let's be honest. Let's be honest. No one was voting for this loser, Christian Wakeford. No one had heard of this complete loser. They were voting for Boris in Bury South, and he has let down the voters of Bury South. Emily, I just want to ask you about this speaking of immature losers. No, actually, sorry, I shouldn't stoop to her level. Angela Rayner, come on, what was she doing today?
It's like when someone goes, shh, when you're getting, when you're in the middle of saying something. It's one of those things that's so annoying when you're showing it. I mean, obviously, it's not on the same level as what she said before with the Tory scum comments, but it is just indicative of her type of politician. I mean, Angela Rayner, I don't think too many people take her seriously. She does have some appeal, though. She does have some appeal, but I think it's very limited, and I think she probably...
Daisy, what did you think of her waving in the face of Boris today?
I didn't particularly mind it, but I watched PMQs in its entirety, and I'm always torn between being somebody who loves Parliament and has spent a long time in the press gallery and then trying to be dispassionate about it and trying to imagine that I was foreign and watching this and just... I
thought they were all embarrassing.
I did turn to my other half today. We were watching together and said, we both said, this is really embarrassing.
Yeah.
The speaker was having to shout at them all and they're all being
disgraceful.
So
it was disgraceful, Adam.
Students watching that today and they want to get into politics. It's embarrassing, isn't it? It really is,
Totally.
But I think the Partygate stuff's embarrassing. The fact that there's so much else going on in the country. There's so much else going on with our politics and our international relations.
Which is why you want us to move on from Partygate, and I do understand it. And look, there'll be a lot of people sitting at home, Emily, saying, hallelujah, they don't want to hear another word about a party at number 10 Downing Street.